Hello folks, Typhoon Carter here, and I bring to you another DPP Revival Invitational. This is round 2 of Pearl Bracket between Godmommy Picks, also known as Vulpix03, and Don Coco Carpinga, also known as Coco, also known as Helpona. Whoever wins this set here will be facing the winner of Mustonet or Violet River, and whoever wins that subsequent series is going to get their ticket to main event punched in. So just keeping that in mind. Anyways, both of these players are real veterans of the game, with Vulpix having been an ORAS veteran in SPL for years, but his DPP is quite good. And Don Coco Carpinga, or Helpona, or Coco, has been a excellent GSC player for years, but his DPP is pretty good. He did win DPP Globals a couple years ago. So, you know, very, very exciting matchup here. Scissor lead, Heatran lead. Interesting lead matchup here, especially with the Scissor lead not being super common, but if I'm seeing this, first instinct is that this might be a Choice Scarf lead. Why that lead is appealing in the context of DPP is that it lets you get the jump on something like a Scarf a regular Azelf lead. And then the other thing is it can also, in this case, let you get the jump on something like Heatran with a possible superpower. If I'm Vulpix, I'd probably be scouting out for a possible Choice Scarf lead, but CB is a possibility as well, whereas with the Heatran could be Focus Sash, could also be just something like Specs or a Resist Berry, like just offensive Heatran with a Resist Berry, whether it's Pasho, Shuka, or even Chople. Anyways, let's keep going. Earth Power's here, shows Life Orb recoil, and Coco's just got U-turn. Probably was banking on the Heatran switching out. Tentacruel was shown on Coco's side, bit of an old school pick there. You would have seen this more like 10 years, like 10-15 years ago. But Tentacruel has fallen off favor the last couple years, mostly because of stuff like Clefable and passive damage just being a real pain, despite Tentacruel being like a half-decent spinner sometimes. Anyways, so Lottie was sent out, Heatran was the only answer, Heatran on Vulpix's end. With Life Orb, again, Life Orb, bit of a forgotten set, very good 10-15 years ago, but it's still nice in this context. And Clefable barely hanging on against this Heatran, and Coco's just got toss here. And Vulpix kind of forced to explode. Coco more than happy to sacrifice the Clefable. And Rotom is shown here. Rotom Frost. Hold on. At first I figured that, you know, if there's a Tentacruel, there's probably a Ghost, which we've checked out. You see the Rotom, which is fine, until you realize it's Rotom Frost. Rotom Frost is, despite the fact that all the Rotom appliances in DPP share electric ghost typing regardless, there's a bit of an issue here where you run into with like, you know, like just the other coverage moves on the other Rotom appliances just generally being better. But if you're going to run this, especially because there is no lefties from what I can tell, there's probably an Abomasnow in the back, wouldn't be surprised there. Whereas for Vulpix's team, a little bit more clear trajectory, I would expect a Tyranitar in the back there. And then the last I would expect maybe a second Fire Resist, because Heatran is not a proper Fire Resist when other Heatrans beat it with something like Earth Power, and Infernape kind of just punches it in with close combat, so just keep that in mind. Tyranitar is sent out into this Blizzard. Blizzard deals decent amounts of damage here. Rotom Blizzards again. And Pursuit does not quite kill, so Vulpix about to lose his Tyranitar if he keeps this up, and Coco was okay with keeping attacking. Probably didn't see as much value with keeping the Rotom around. So Vulpix has just got to take this Rotom out, take his kill. Has a slight lead, but it's not a safe lead. Heatran's got to be sent out into this Suicune. Suicune being the last checks out. Eats up this Lava Plume, but that Toxic Spikes that the Tentacruel set earlier is going to come in handy here, especially because the Heatran showed Protect earlier. And Vulpix knows that the Protect might be coming, so opted to Calm Mind up here. But I have a bit of a timer. This Tentacruel I expect to have some bulk. Other fun perk about Tentacruel is that it can actually run knockoff reasonably, so that's just something to keep in mind. Jirachee is going to be sent out here, and what do you know, an Abomasnow is the last here. So Abomasnow, it's something that always seems to pop back up in usage every few years. And then obviously Tentacruel is like has good synergy with Abomasnow because like the ground weakness, Abomasnow can negate that. Anyway, so this Suicune not really gonna do a whole lot, especially with the Abomasnow just chilling. Abomasnow going to get some health back, probably going to protect here, try to get some chip damage on the steels, make the hail damage stick. Still at 79%. However, the hail also will work against Coco's own Heatran, unless Vulpix brings the Tyranitar back in. So if you're Vulpix, you probably will hold off on bringing the Tyranitar back in for now, at least until you've dealt significant damage to this Heatran. And Tentacruel is going to be sent out. Healing Wishes into the Tyranitar. And Sand is reset here. So Stone Edge is here, so that is a Scarf Tar if I've ever seen one. And Scizor are going to threaten a Bullet Punch here. And Bullet Punches into Gliscor. Gliscor was fine because you cover U-turn and you don't get instantly owned by Bullet Punch, as we saw there. Scizor going to Bullet Punch again. And Jirachee's just got Fire Punch. Fire Punch will take care of business. And Tyranitar is going to be sent in on this Heatran. Despite the Heatran having Protect here, Tyranitar can actually just Superpower, just spam Superpower and then just kind of win the game from there. And then even if the Abomasnow, say, gets multiple Protects in a row, and you would still have to Jirachee. So, you know, I'd be feeling great right now if I'm Vulpix. Abomasnow is sent out here. And Gliscor is going to be swapped out, trying to play around Protect, but the other thing is that Vulpix is doing this so that he can reset the weather and negate Abomasnow's recovery, which is going to be quite vital. And Vulpix is just going to Superpower again. Abomasnow gets to Protect here. Coco could try to salvage this by getting a second double Protect, but I don't know how you're going to outlast a Jirachee, especially a Jirachee that's shown Fire Punch, because I'm almost certain Fire Punch would KO for sure here. Especially because Abomasnow's, you know, quad weak to fire, but I digress. Fire Punch is here shockingly does not kill, but even with the Leech Seed there, Coco is going to lose this game and Vulpix will take home game 1. Here we are with game 2. Rose lead, Gira lead. Interesting lead matchup here. Rose could either be Choice Scarf, could be Focus Sash, whereas for Gyarados could be something like CB with Sleep Talk, could also be Lum DD, could also be something like Sub DD Gira, could also be defensive. So there's a couple possibilities for what the Gira set could be. Rose not nearly as much, but we'll find out soon enough. Sleep Powder's here. Lumberry is revealed. DD's up here, going to threaten Ice Fang, probably. But no, Coco just opts to Waterfall and gets a crit there. Going to make significant progress on this Latias, and the Scizor is sent out on Coco's end, going to try to get Pursuit Trap off. Oh, does not get it though, due to full para, and forced a Bullet Punch there, as T-Bolt could potentially killed. Empoleon is sent out as a response against the Swampert. Vulpix should be scouting for Grass Knot here, but Coco takes advantage of that, is able to get rocks up. T-Spikes is thrown out on Rose's end. Full para is there. That is actually really bad for Vulpix, or sorry, for Coco, because of the fact that you could have gotten rid of the Focus Sash it might have had. Lottie is put to sleep here with Sleep Powder. Jirachee is the follow-up, and Coco's Infernape is sent out. And this Jirachee shown Calm Mind, could be Occaberry, could be Lumberry, but Vulpix does not want to take any chances with that. Flamethrower is shown, so that's actually not very common on Infernape. However, Coco forced to switch out against Vulpix's Gira. Gira's got DD up here and Ice Fangs. However, Coco's going to Outrage here, and Outrage does significant damage. And yeah, Lum makes sense with Outrage. It's probably like Stone Edge Outrage or something like that. T-Bolt's there. The Infernape is sent out, and I don't know about this. Nasty Plot's up here, so Vulpix is really in trouble here. Couple things to note here, though. Nasty Plot Infernape is a bit of a forgotten threat in DPP as well. The reason it fell out of favor years ago was partly due to Latias's prominence, or rather it fell off, especially with Latias's reintroduction to DPP a couple years ago, back in like 2020, give or take. And the other thing is that if you're running Infernape with Nasty Plot, usually this means you have something like a Scizor backing it up, which would make sense, like a Pursuiter, generally 8+ Pursuiter, try true combo. But let's keep going here. Flamethrower's to Rotom. Rotom shown not to be Scarf, so... Oh, he is in trouble now. Swampert swapped in. Oh, that crit's gotta suck. Because if the Swampert had Protect, he could have at least outlasted the Infernape and then sacked the Rose, try to salvage the game from there, but... Coco was just so far ahead that, like, I don't think there was much Vulpix might have been able to do after that. And Coco's got to tie this game up 1 apiece. That was quite the game, to say the least. But the Scizor sequence on the Rose was kind of unfortunate. And then, you know, like the Infernape, I think like when the Jirachee at +1 there, I think Vulpix could have just stayed in there. I don't think Fire Blast might have outright killed, but we don't know for sure. And the other thing is that we don't know for sure if it was Akaberry or if it was Lumberry, but based on how Vulpix responded to that Infernape, I'm more inclined to say it's probably something like Shukaberry or Lumberry, but we don't know for sure. Anyways, let's keep going. Here we are, game 3. Skarm lead, Heatran lead. So, interesting lead matchup here. This Skarm could either be defensive, or it could be something like Focus Sash with dual hazards. Whereas for Heatran lead, I kind of talked about in game 1, but it could be a bajillion things. We'll find out soon enough what it is. Stealth Rock's up here, and Heatran showing Eruption. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna pause here because Eruption Heatran tells us a couple things. For one, Eruption is an event-only move on Heatran. For those of you not familiar with how old gens work with moveset compatibility, if you have Eruption, what this tells us is that you are nature locked into something like Quiet, which is like plus special attack minus speed. So the Heatran is extremely slow. It caps out at 227 speed, which is why the Skarmory was able to get Stealth Rocks up first. So that also tells us that it is like 262 Skarm. And if this Heatran is showing Eruption, it tells us a couple things for team structure. One, I would expect there to be a spinner due to Eruption being HB based in terms of like attack power. The other thing I would expect is lots of paralysis support backing this Heatran up, and then maybe you could do something like Heatran plus CB Tyranitar with something like Zap Me, Jira. So that's like, so yeah, I just named like 5 members that Heatran could possibly have. Whereas for Skarm HO, a little bit more variable, but usually I would expect Skarm, DDer, and then Ghost, and then maybe something like a Scizor as well, or like some kind of offensive steal. Anyways, let's keep going. There's a Starmie. Spike's up here. Goes to Scizor, interesting choice. Gets Parrot there, but wait, didn't go into your Ghost. I would have just gone to your Ghost at that point. So, Night Slash? What? Okay, Scizor gets full Parrot. That Zapdos is going to be a real pain in the neck. And Zapdos just T-waving and then going to take the kill in the Skarmory. So there goes your Hazard Stack game plan. And your follow-up is Tyranitar. Okay, sure. Jirachee is shown, so yeah, that's not surprising. Tricks here gets rid of the Oh, the Sugarberry works out in Jirachee's favor. Mixed Flygon. Flygon is shown. I would expect this to be Mixed Flygon. Because Mixed Flygon is a common breaker on these type of builds. Oh, there's the Life Orb recoil. Hidden Power Grass is here. Hold on. There's gotta be a ghost here, right? D-Knight. D-Knight DD's up here. Vulpix saying GG early. And then Hidden Powers doesn't quite kill the D-Knight. Heatran's going to be sent in to absorb the Outrage, but Vulpix tries to Fire Punch there. That doesn't quite work out. Outrage takes care of the... does a decent damage to Heatran, and... Geara's the last. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a second. Okay, I don't love pausing here, but I feel like I have to. First of all, Vulpix's team is... what is this? Like, triple DD with no Ghost and no Choice Scarf or no speed control whatsoever on this team. There is maybe 3 or 4 things I could think of that's wrong with this team. Because first of all, like, where's the Ghost? Like, if you see a Starmie, you better have a plan. Because if your Starmie plan is only a Scizor, that is not good enough. Especially given how common Zapdos plus Starmie as a combo has been, like, the last couple years. Like, we've seen, like, recently in the VR that Starmie jumped up several spots on the viability ranking. So, like, that's something you should be prepared for. And second of all, like, I like the Mixgon on Skarmocho, but I think triple Dragon Dance on these Skarmochos is too greedy. Save that stuff for your Azelf HOs because... hey, you're not as reliant on getting multiple layers of hazards up on that kind of team. Whereas on this team, you're depending a lot on, you know, the Flygon getting, like, help from hazards to put stuff in range of something like a Draco Meteor, Fire Blast, etc., right? So this is just not a good team. If you replace, I think if you replace maybe like either the Gyarados or the D-Knight, probably replace the D-Knight with something like a Scarf Rotom, I think this team could go places, but this is just not good. Like, if you're gonna build Skarm Hazard Stack HO, you cannot be skimping out on a Ghost like this. That is just bad fishing. And ran into Starmie, we see what happens here, and I don't know how Vulpix comes back from this. Sorry. Anyways, DD's up here. Here, Flamethrower, obviously that's Choice Specs, does a lot of damage, does 62% with the Flash Fire boost. And then, you know, the Gyarados, I would... okay, Celebi is shown to be one of Coco's last here, so I would expect this to be Celebi plus Tyranitar. Celebi has been a rising star in the last couple years, or rather the last year or so as a Breloom answer, and it's a great road compression Pokemon because, like, you can get rocks up, and oh, Scizor shows SD. Fire Punches here, chose to be Akaberry. And full pairs there, unfortunate, but the game was pretty cooked at this point. So, Tyranitar on its last legs here. Crunch is there, I would just, if I'm you, I would just, yeah. Tyranitar being last makes sense, and then Superpower gets rid of the Tyranitar. So, Coco takes this set 2-1. And... I think game 2, Vulpix gotta let that get away from him. I think there was a world where he could have won that, but game 3, Vulpix I think just shot himself in the foot, unfortunately. I think if he had just brought, like, you know, like a better composition for like Skarmocho, I think it could have been a much more interesting match. And then instead you see this is what happens when you fish for no Starmie and you run into a Starmie, you lose pretty quickly, to say the least. But thank you for playing, Vulpix, and congratulations to Coco for moving on to play-ins finals. Best of luck to him. If you guys enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and consider donating to our DPP Revival Invitational prize pool. If we could exceed $1,200 by the end of this tournament, which was the prize pool for JDI 1, then that'd be great. Again, donate what you can donate, or rather what you can afford to donate, or if you want to donate and want to support us. And I will see you guys next time.